Thank you for watching our webinar, Leading with Answers. Presenting is OnePlan's Jim Patterson. If you enjoy this topic, please explore our YouTube channel for more recorded presentations and follow us on LinkedIn to stay in the know.
Welcome, everybody. Very pleased to bring you this topic here today, really focused on visibility and insights that you can get from a strategic portfolio management solution, and the concepts as to why that's important and why that's important now. So let's go into the concepts from the beginning. You know, there is in many organizations that we talk to today, there's still a visibility gap. Even with all the technology that's available today, many organizations have gaps in the visibility that they're looking for. They may have disconnected project and team data across tools, meaning there's a proliferation of tools and silos of information across the board, and it's very difficult to get a complete picture. There's also delayed or more static reporting that's going on. You know, some people call it Excel hell. Also, some people do all their status reporting in static PowerPoints, which are just pictures that oftentimes by the time the process is done of creating them, they're outdated. And there's also an inherent inability in a lot of organizations to tie project work to strategic objectives, which is becoming more and more important in today's fast-paced environments to deliver. There's also lack of resource visibility at times, or at very best, resource visibility that's tied to the actual work that we're doing. So who's doing what and when, and are they working on the right things? And then oftentimes we have unclear pictures on specific projects or initiatives on what the health is, what the timelines are, what the ROI metrics are, and other KPIs that your organization might find important for your specific types of projects. Just some of those things that we're talking about here breed costs and inefficiencies across the board. You know, what is the pain that we can suffer, and what's the cost to us for not addressing these things in an effective way? Well, there's strategic misalignment. So the projects that you're working on may not align with business goals, and if they're not aligning with the business goals, maybe why are we doing them, and are we wasting our resources? You know, teams working on low priority or possibly even redundant initiatives across a cross-functional organization can reduce overall impact for the investments that we're making. Inefficient resource allocation. We may have over and underutilization of staff, right? And missing deadlines according to that, or overcommitting and setting ourselves up for failure. We might even have some of our more popular or high-performing teams overloaded while others are underused, causing burnout, maybe, or inefficiency of our best people. There's also poor decision-making that's on the table there, because leaders lacking real-time data oftentimes can't make decisions based upon complete information, and sometimes the decisions can be faulty because it's based on outdated, incomplete, or siloed information like we talked about prior. Also redundant or duplicate work, which I referred to. You know, multiple teams may be unknowingly working on similar projects, right? We want to avoid that where all possible. That's just waste. There's also delayed issue detection. You know, oftentimes there's a window of opportunity to do corrective action where it can actually have an effect. And if we miss that window, we can leave ourselves open to things like scope creep, budget overruns we can't get past, or missed milestones that go unnoticed, or maybe even functional things that we're working with. But if escalations happen too late, the increasing cost and complexity of the resolution, or even the possibility of doing the resolution at all, may have passed us by. Also, there's a lack of accountability and transparency. Sometimes it's difficult to track ownership, progress, and performance on specific initiatives or on portfolios and programs overall. If we have that, oftentimes there's reduced trust. People expect or suspect that there's fat in there, or the things that are missing, or there's information that's not being relayed, and there's difficulty in enforcing the accountability without that kind of visibility. Also, reduced agility. If we don't have current information and don't have the ability to then see that we need to pivot, then we have the inability to pivot quickly in response to market or internal changes or any other changes that we have to respond to. This puts us at a competitive disadvantage to people that are more agile and more nimble and give us slower time to market. And we talked about that proliferation of tools. Knowledge silos or data silos are very tough, because by the time you manually mash up all that data, then put it into a form and format that's digestible, that really is decision support information, it's probably stale by the time you go through that very labor-intensive process. Now, this is not all-encompassing, but these are just some of the key areas that we see that people suffer from when they don't have proper visibility and the answers at their fingertips. Now, strategic portfolio management, or SPM, is really the latest push in advancing project and portfolio management. And it really is shifting today from just project execution and project visibility in a portfolio to portfolio level and strategic level execution. Also, on top of that, leaders today need answers, not more data. As we get more data and more complex models, we need to boil that down and transform it into digestible information that gives us answers and insights, not just data. And the role of SPM in connecting strategy to delivery lets us see all the different components or impacts that we have across things that have dependencies on one another in our initiatives, and also how what we're doing is impacting the success or lack thereof of specific objectives, key results, or other strategies. Hence, the PMO or even the EPMO is evolving from more from reporting and governance to an enabler and really kind of a nerve center for all this type of information as we move forward. Now, OnePlan, as we're going to talk about today, is an AI-enabled strategic portfolio and work management platform that enables you to streamline all this and optimize your investments, and while driving growth. The focus of this webinar is really getting the answers, and it's really about visibility, and that's just one key component. If we think of 6 of the major pain areas or capability areas that we address, the visibility is the key. That's the payback of having a unified system that has all these different dimensions in it. But we also connect execution to strategy. We unify those disparate tools and teams in that fragmentation we talked about with silos. We help optimize resource and capacity planning. We help centralize financial management and support hybrid work models. We don't need different tool sets necessarily, or different panes of glass for our agile projects versus our waterfall projects versus whatever other types of variations you might have out there. The key is, how do we bring this all together into a common hub and a common lens for your organization? Now, OnePlan provides visibility, alignment, and control. It provides uniform views of portfolios, programs, and projects, real-time dashboards and executive-ready reports, resource capacity and planning across all teams and departments in your organization. It has the establishment of OKRs and then alignment with them for business outcomes that we want to track. And for those of you out there that are in organizations that are Microsoft 365 ecosystem, this is delivered to you from the Microsoft Cloud. It seamlessly is added into your Microsoft 365 user experience, as well as integrates with things like Azure DevOps, Jira, Smartsheet, Microsoft Project, etc. Ultimately, if we can harness this and bring this all together into a common hub like OnePlan, it becomes the system of record for your strategic work overall. It makes it easier for us to get real-time visibility. So what are those capabilities? Now, I'm not going to delve into this in detail, but on the demand side, establishing those strategies and those OKRs should spawn ideas and requests for your projects in an ideation area of OnePlan that should be vetted and approved and even thought of when it was originally submitted in accordance to what we're trying to achieve strategically for the organization. And there's other portfolios of information that might be important to you. Product portfolios, application portfolios, business capabilities, things that we may have to address, modernize, or modify in order to achieve the things we want to achieve from a strategic basis. Ultimately, these factors are going to help us determine what goes into our active portfolio of projects and initiatives. And those portfolios, whether it be the portfolio managers themselves that are actually selecting and managing the overall portfolios, we have to factor in our ability to deliver resources and temper our selection and approval of projects along with our capacity to deliver those things. And then there's the financial aspect. More and more people are tracking detailed financials on a time phase basis, delineating CapEx versus OpEx, et cetera. And even factoring that in as they're approving their projects or their ideas and their requests, and how much of it's going to be coming from CapEx and OpEx. And then as things change quickly today, having what if scenario modeling is very important so that we can evaluate alternatives in real time and course correct as we need to. Now, our focus today isn't going to necessarily be on the execution pieces for doing agile planning and waterfall planning and the individual project resource management, et cetera, and the team member side. But this does spawn and roll up into your portfolios for your KPIs and your metrics on the visibility we're going to talk about today. Ultimately, all these transactional pieces of the software come together in a variety of ways that we can get information, insights, reports, and dashboards, whether they be project-specific status reports, whether they be dashboards at whatever level of detail it might be, portfolios at the program level, project level, etc. And then visualizations of how all these things interrelate with one another so we can factor in all the things that are impacting or potentially impacting our success. Now, as far as insights go, our artificial intelligence assistant, Sophia GPT, which is present at all times, gives us insights based on the data that's in the system and based upon its large language model that it's been trained on, as well as the things it's been trained on in the SPM discipline and all the things that OnePlan does, helping giving us answers and augment our own human readable discernment of the information that's there. Ultimately, we want to do the right work and select the right things to work on for the organization, but we want to do the work well, we want to do it right, we want to do it effectively. So one more aspect of this, say you're a PMO and you have a solution, and we have all these capabilities in OnePlan in the gray up here, and they should be part of the entire governance process from the beginning to end, from demand through planning through execution and analysis. But, for example, an EPMO or a PMO might have the need for a total visibility across all things that are going on, but what about special interests? What about the folks in the different domains in your organization? Like IT has their own specific needs, research and development, product development, operations, application management, professional services. Those folks need a user experience that presents the data to them in a way that's important to them and focused on them, and removes any of the noise that isn't applicable to them. And OnePlan is very good at tailoring this user experience by solution areas that allow you to take the portions of the data that are meaningful to you and present it in a way that you'd like to deal with it. And then ultimately, we talked about integrations and bringing in data from other fragmented tools today. Now, if these things are silos today of information, OnePlan is an integration platform that allows you to pull in this data into OnePlan on an automated basis once the connectors are set up. And these are productized connectors in our own OnePlan connector platform, whether it be Microsoft Project, whether it be Planner, whether it be Smartsheet, Azure DevOps, Jira, ServiceNow, Dynamics, et cetera, even your financial data from financial systems and ERP systems. That stuff all can be brought into this common hub we're talking about to give you enhanced and ultimate visibility of it all. So with that, I'd like to give you a demonstration of how some of this works. So I think at the core, let's start at the enterprise portfolio. If you look at what you're looking at on the screen here, what I've got is a number of different portfolios that might represent different subsets or parts of the organization, right? We can establish in here plan type hierarchies that make sense for you in the way that you do business. In this case, I've got portfolios with programs within them. And then within those, I got projects and epics, and those agile projects or epics might have features associated with them, or there might be professional services engagements that we're working on for our clients. This is configurable by you such that you can model this in the way that your organization would look at these types of things. Now, if I expand out one of these, one of the key things here is you'll notice that within this portfolio of data analytics transformation, within this program of enterprise data platform, we have a number of different projects and epics within that program. Now, also notice the symbology of the icons over to the left-hand side. What this does is it shows where I am connected to other tool sets for other purposes. For example, in this particular case, I'm connected to Smartsheet for the execution level data. In this case, I'm connected to Microsoft Project Professional on the desktop for information. I might be tied to, say, a Monday.com or a Jira or an Azure DevOps. The idea here is you can have as many connectors enabled within this as you would like, and have that all be pulled into a common portfolio so that you're not missing out on any data or manually aggregating that data at any given point in time. Now, we are in what we call a list view here. And these list views can have other variations. As you can see here, there's visibility. If I come into this, I can see all the KPIs that are important to us, and you can make your own that allow us to have visibility on these and the increments that you'd like and the color coding that you would like. In this case, I got some high-level financials and when we're going to deliver these things and what the progress is and how, give us a sense of when we're going to deliver those things. But that's just one dimension on that. On these list views, you can use any of the data that's in here, Let's say, for example, I wanted to come in here and look at a portfolio alignment view. In this portfolio alignment view, not only am I looking at the list of projects, epics, and engagements that are in here, I'm also looking at what else it is aligned with. Are there key results that I'm aligned with? Are there associated products that I have to depend on for the success on here? Are there applications that are available to me that I need to depend on in order to make this successful? And the key there is I can look at these associations at any time that I want. On the prioritization side of things, I can actually come in here very quickly, and look at whatever prioritization models we put in place. In this particular case, we're looking at a business driver kind of focused way to go. How it strategically aligns. Is it going to lower costs? Is it going to improve employee retention? Is it going to improve risk reduction, et cetera? And then a calculated prioritization score comes out of the selections we make on these things. Ultimately, we can come in here and look at which are the highest priority projects that we have. We can look at this not only when they're projects or initiatives, we can look at them when they are ideas or requests that are coming in to help us focus on the right things to select. There's also trending. We snapshot data in here, so if you want to trend the data that you have in here very quickly, are we falling off track? Now, I don't have a complete set of data in here, but I can see on the state of the project and the status of the project, I can see where it has gone in the last half dozen reporting periods and whether or not it's trending up or down. I can see specific things like budget, whether or not that's trending up or down along the way. And we can establish whatever metrics you like and snapshot them and have trending analysis on this at any given point in time. Now, the flexibility of this is I talked about that hierarchy that we put in place for the portfolio, but we're not bound by that. If I come into something like a overall summary that gives me a simple list of all the projects, epics, engagements, etc., I can fashion this in any way that I like. For example, let me just take this flat group of projects and initiatives, etc., and let me say I want to show this by business unit. And now I want to group and summarize this, right, by the business unit, operations, planning, development, etc. On the fly, any data or metadata you put against this, you can actually visualize that data by that. Or maybe I might want to say, let me put a second grouping in here. And that second grouping might be by the state of the project, say, for example. And if I look at the state of the project and look at that, now I notice I've got the business unit, now I've got what's closed, proposed, active, etc. And on top of that, I could then filter things. So I could come in here and then filter these things down and say, let me add a filter in here. Let me say, I'll put in, once again, I'll filter it by a business unit. And I'll say the value here is, let's just say, let me make it, not IT, let me make it operations. And if I apply that filter, now I'm focused on that particular area and just that thing, the operations efforts. And as I come in here, I can save these views as either system views or as personal views, depending on my level of authority within the system. And the idea is I can build my own default views in here so I can look at this from any given perspective that's important to me. Okay. If I go in here and I remove the groupings and I remove the filters, now I'm back to a more global view of everything. Now, for those of you that are more agile oriented, these visualizations of, can be in board views as well. So here I'm looking at cards that have the projects by state, and we can determine what data elements we'd like to have on the cards. And we can look at these in a variety of different fashions. So we can determine what the columns are, and it could be any of the data elements that we have in OnePlan. We can choose to have swim lanes. This one doesn't have any, but the color coding on the bars on the top of the cards basically is by the status of those projects and how we're doing. So basically, when we look at those things, we can tell when things are going well or if they're off track. For example, if I come in here and I see that the cybersecurity enhancement is red, I can go in here very quickly and I can actually drill into the details around that and see maybe why this is on track. Look at the detailed data around that, and I can see that it's overall off track, mostly because the schedule's off track and our resource utilization of effort is at risk as far as going over the budget. And that's why we're looking at an off-track project on this point. Once again, all those types of things are there, as well as the ability to look at dependencies between these things on demand as well through the cards. Now, if we look at this, this is very flexible, just like the list views. I'm looking at projects by state at the moment, but let me look at the, let's say, portfolio investment categories. So here's the different portfolios by the different investment categories of customer satisfaction, grow the business, run the business, etc. And in that particular case, I get a good sense of these as I go on through, but maybe it makes more sense for me to go do this at more of a project level. And let me look at the um, um, projects by business unit. And if I go here, look at the projects by business unit, here I get the different business units. I can take a look at all the different projects within that, right? And I can look at it in a variety of different ways. If I go into maybe another variation of that, maybe I'll look at projects by strategic alignment. And this is by how well they strategically align. And now I've got this zoomed out to smaller cards. At any given point in time, I can hover over these, right? Like I showed you before, but also just drill in at any given point in time to any particular dimension on this. For example, if I was going to do that quick edit like I did before, I could do that. Or I could go into the work plan or the schedule. I can go into the resource plan for this particular initiative, et cetera, the financials, what have you, as we go through this. Once again, the board views are flexible, and people also use these things for doing things like program increment planning in a more agile use case as we have organizations that do more scaled agile types of approaches. There's also the roadmap views. Now these roadmap views, once again, are very flexible. If I come into a particular roadmap view, say, and right now I'm looking at by portfolio investment category, and now I'm looking at that, and the color is by the status of that. Well, once again, I can look at this once again by, say, a different set of circumstances. Here I am looking at it by project investment category roadmap, and my color status is by the status of the overall project. Is it on track or not? Now, very easily, I could come in here and say, well, what if I wanted to look at this, say, by how we're doing on effort help, on the expenditure of resources? I get a different perspective on that as it's color coded, and I can see that I've one that we're starting to spend more, and here where we've definitely overspent on the resource side of things. I could also look at it from an overall financial health perspective, or whatever other metric makes the most sense. Here at the top, I got a lot of green, but down below, I've got some things that maybe are not doing so well from a financial or a budget perspective as I'm executing on these particular plans. Okay. And then we have a variety of dashboards. If I come into the dashboard side of things, OnePlan has a bunch of native dashboards, and we have some templates that we provide to our customers to start with. But be aware that you can always create your news by adding new dashboards and new widgets or components or tiles into the mix at any given point in time. So you can establish that whenever you like. And you can even, when you put a new dashboard in, determine what kinds of slicers or filters you might want at the top for those types of things. So here on the dashboard, I'm looking at an overall portfolio summary, which is giving me high-level aggregation on things like budget versus actual and benefits and return on investment. It's giving me budget by business unit, and it's itemizing the different projects and different portfolios down below, okay, as we go through that. On the project health summary, right, I can come in here and I can look at similar information about tasks in progress and other things like that on the different projects that we have in play. But I could also filter that down to either just IT, or I can look at this more along the lines and look at it across the board fully across my entire portfolio that I'm working with. Now be aware that even though we have our own native reporting, we do have folks that, especially on the Microsoft ecosystems we play very big in, that make heavy use of Power BI. And so we do have a rich set of templates and a data feed for Power BI that basically allows you to run reports in Power BI as well. So once again, leveraging the native OnePlan data, we can surface this in Power BI for non-OnePlan users or executives that want to just look at it from their current reporting models. We can do that stuff in here, where we can actually come in here and look at things like focus on a particular portfolio, or maybe drill through to a particular portfolio, etc. Or maybe even drill into the program of a particular portfolio and then look at all the projects and epics within that, and then look at variations of this, maybe an overview site of this, maybe status on a variety of things with the KPIs that mirror what we saw in the live portfolio, as well as the financial pieces of that, or maybe a financial focused dashboard, or maybe even the gory details of how we're doing on completed milestones and overdue tasks, etc. Those things are available to you, so be aware, even though we have a robust set of our own native reporting, if you're using Power BI, our data is readily available through our OData feed for you to do that. And we provide you a report pack of like 40, 50 templates to surface this data very, very easily. If I go back to the list view, and let's just say I'm in a portfolio summary view, and I expand out all the gory details here. You know, we talked about Sophia and our OnePlan AI assistant that's in here, right? And Sophia is very instrumental, not just in helping create things and those types of things, but in also analyzing. So for example, Sophia is this circle down here in the lower right. And as I go in here, you can save prompts that you would use on a regular basis if you like. But in this particular case, I'm going to go in here and say, could you examine the trends and provide a summary of the current state of my portfolio? So once again, I'm just looking for insights. Tell me what you think, Sophia, about what you see about the data that's presented to you, and based on the knowledge that you have overall from the large language model that you have. And it gives me a list of the portfolio items, the statuses, the health, and the things that I might want to provide. And overall, it gives me a recap of all that as I go there. Now, this is pretty general information that I just asked for here, but still it provides me insights beyond just the data that I'm looking at on here. Now, if I go to the portfolio alignment view, which I showed how it's aligned with different strategies and such, or products, or aligned with applications, etc., I could go in here and ask it a question, maybe for more suggestions on maybe what I should do. And let's just say if budget cuts are needed, which project should we cancel or put on hold based upon strategic importance, ROI, and progress to date? And as I ask it that, it's going to look at the totality of the information in there. Let's see what comes up. So it's making suggestions on content marketing, my Trello board, social media strategy, and give me the rationale why it thinks that I should make those the candidates. Obviously, we're going to make the ultimate decision. But once again, this is analysis very quickly that it's making for us, so it can augment our own decision-making process and our own thoughts on this, okay? I would say as we go into the details of a project itself, I'm not going to focus so much on the execution side of things. We always have what we call a details page, that at any given point in time, somebody can just drill in with one click and take a look at all the current data and in the current state, real time, of the status of the projects, whether it be the KPIs, whether it be the effort, whether it be the financials, whether it be the schedule summary, how it's prioritized, maybe look at the original business case, and maybe even look at the current status on that. But we also have in here, as we go through that, we also have reporting. So for example, well, maybe before I move on to that, let me just talk about how we might use Sophia to help us to augment our data entry and speed up the status reporting that we're doing. For example, if I'm here in this, and maybe it's asking for status reporting on accomplishments, planned activities, and additional comments, let me focus on that additional comments field real quick. And let me ask it, if I go into edit it, Sophia shows up here at a field level as well. And I say, please provide additional comments on the current status of this project based on the data currently available. And let's see what it generates. Okay, in rich text format, it's giving me additional comments about the status and how we're doing on things like resource allocation, risk management, and give me an overall summary that the project is on track with no significant deviations and those types of things. But it's giving me narrative based upon the data that we fed that's in the system without me having to start from scratch. So the idea here is that Sophia could actually help us with data entry and status updates as well, not just reading the data that's already there, but helping us add data to this and put narratives in there that we want to communicate to the rest of the organization. Now, on the reporting side of things, remember now that I'm within a specific project, and let me start with status reports. And this status report looks very much like the details page that I showed you, but you can structure this so that it will pull in objective data automatically in here. So you don't have to build this status report. It can also provide narrative like we just showed you and be able to put the narrative in, because we are snapshotting this every current period so that you might have a different narrative every period in here. You're not just overwriting the same fields over and over again. We can even have associated items like what tasks are in progress, what active issues do we have, et cetera, that come up automatically as part of this report. So once again, in this status report, you can fashion the sections, the fields of data, the objective data elements you'd like to put in here. And then once you submit that, it becomes part of a snapshot of data and a history of status reports that are there, which you can either read right here within OnePlan, or you can communicate with others via PDF, Word, or an email report that you can send out to people as well. So once again, that visibility and communication that we're talking about to collaborate cross-functionally and up and down the management chain within our organizations. Now, a cool thing that we have in here is the ability to visualize. And you could do this from any part of the system. I could look at it from here from a specific project like I am. I could look at it from a portfolio. I could look at it from, say, a strategy, an objective, or a key result, and see what's aligned with it. And this visualization right here is going to tell me if I have any predecessors or successors on a simple case. In this case, this data warehouse migration does have a successor. But the runway is what I find informative. Now you can decide what this runway looks like and what elements are in it. You can have different runway views in here for your own purposes. But in this particular case, this particular project I'm looking at, it contributes to this key result, which ultimately contributes to the success of this objective, and they look all green. But I also have some association or some dependency or affiliation with these two products. And I can see that this product is at risk, as well as an application that's at risk that feeds this particular product. And just like we did within the boards, I can go drill in at any given point in time and look at what's going on with that particular product and what might be up with this that may be driving all this, so that I can keep a finger on the pulse of things that might be putting my project at risk. Once again, visibility and information and getting answers as opposed to just a bunch of data. Okay. Also, on the reporting side of things, we provide insights. Our AI-based capabilities allow you to understand if maybe the components of the plan, if they're in compliance, or all elements of the plan in place. And this one's 86% compliant, which is not bad, but it's not perfect. It also tells me that I have risks and I have issues and I have unsubmitted timesheets, right? And the idea there is that it's bringing to me a highlight of things. And this can surface for you on your own personal dashboard within OnePlan as well. And then ultimately, like we talked about with the portfolio level, within the individual project, we have our own dashboarding and reporting capability that can allow us to do reports on things like the overall plan, on things like the state, the issues, the risks, the priorities, the change requests. We can report on the specific tasks that are in here to understand, so that people that aren't transactionally involved in the schedule can get a current snapshot of where we're at. The Agile backlog, we report on those, we report on issues and risks, etc. We even provide financial summaries and things like that so that we can get that information, or even financial comparisons like forecast versus budget and budget versus actuals and those types of things. And we also have Power BI templates for this as well, for those of you that want to use your Power BI reporting skills against this as well. Okay, so once again, a lot of rich ways to surface this data. Not everybody's involved at the detailed task level or the transactional level. Some people want to have this high level view and understand where their project is and drill in as they need to. Okay. Now I would say this, as opposed to just the enterprise portfolio that has everything in it, I mentioned solution areas that might have more specific views tailored to the people that have those special interests in mind. For example, if I am on the professional services side of things and I have engagements or projects that support our external clients, my focus might not be on the same things. For example, my portfolio view may be based upon the account or the customer. And those account or customers might have different engagements. And within that, they may have details within those engagements that we want to track from an engagement perspective, and even look at things like margin and profit and things like that that we're getting on a particular engagement from a customer. So once again, something that might be more specific or tailored to a professional services aspect of your organization. If maybe there's a product development area in your organization, you might want to look at this in a different way. You might want to look at by product lines and then products within those product lines, and then look at what initiatives, projects, or agile efforts, for example, that are going on to support the evolution or the advancement of that particular product or product line. Once again, specific to people in product management. Let's just say you're in IT and you're in application management, and next thing you know, I'm looking at this thing in a different way. Maybe I'm looking at different business capabilities and the applications that support that business capability. And then I might be looking at the agile efforts or the individual projects that are supporting the evolution of that as well. And once again, I can have my own views, my own dashboards around this. So once again, if I'm not interested in the global portfolio, OnePlan can become very tailored in your user experience to meet the needs of the things you need to see and leverage all the same tools like Sophia and query those things at any given point in time for your special interest, leveraging your data only. Okay. And as I had mentioned, you know, we can run a visualization from any place in here. So that visualizer I showed you with the relations, I can actually call up the visualizer here at any given point in time with any particular element to see what's related to me or associated to me at any given point in time. Very powerful, especially as these models get more complex and they accommodate many more dimensions of what we're doing. On the resource planning side of things, all of our projects have the ability to have resource capacity plans built in, and we can plan in terms of things like hours and percentages of allocation or FTEs, whatever it might be. In this case, I'll switch to the FTEs of how many headcount. Now, in this case, I'm looking at resource plans by role. And let's just go look in and let me expand out the developer role. And I have named developers. I have things that are still assigned at a generic developer level. That tells me that I need to have a specific individual put on this. But once again, at my fingertips, I can see where I'm over or underloaded beyond my abilities or my capacities to deliver things. And in that, what specific projects or initiatives they are assigned to make that happen. And sure, we can definitely look at over allocations, and we can take a generic assignment and then just decide what candidates might be available to fulfill that and do some resource balancing and do some resource replacement in here. But once again, that visibility, right? That information, those answers are at my fingertips. All I have to do is drill in one time with one click to get to this, to see that complete picture, okay? The same thing would hold true with the ideation. If I look at this, we have innovations in here. So people might submit ideas and requests from anywhere in the organization with our ideation portal concept. And people could vote on these things on a crowdsourced basis, right? There can be prioritization put in place in here. There can be a prioritization model, just like we did with the projects. And the key part here is any one of these things at any given point in time through approval workflow or through changing this with the right permissions, being able to take this idea of the request and promote it into a product or a project or whatever it might be, so that we have one continuum, once again, one central hub that we can transform or promote these things into an active project, etc. If you're interested more on something like this, I could say, you know, what's the prioritization on this look like? And I can look at all these things with the votes and how they score out from a prioritization perspective. I can query Sophia once again on maybe what things I might want to consider approving first, etc. Once again, the same type of thing that we did with the projects, we can do here with the innovations or the ideas. And I would say this, if you go to the dashboards, once again, we have reports on the different challenges that spawned the ideas. We have the ideas themselves in here, and then we can look at them by categories and we can filter them. Or we can maybe just say, like, show me what ideas we have in IT, for example, and look at them in that regard. And basically have focused areas on these dashboards as well. And once again, as you can see, there's a Power BI alternative in here for you if you have a desire to use that as your reporting mechanism. I think I'll stop with the last one because we did talk about aligning with strategy, and we do have the ability in here to build a strategic execution plan, basically having objectives and key results. And within those objectives and key results, we can also align what projects, epics, etc., are supporting that key result, that support that objective, etc. And as I had mentioned, I could come in from this perspective and I could say, let me visualize on the reporting side what's aligned with this particular objective. And here, for example, I say I got no predecessor successors, but my runway tells me that this objective has 2 key results. This key result actually has 4 initiatives, projects, epics, and engagements that are supporting that. One of them is at risk. This one looks like it's green all the way through, but this one goes on to have further associations or even dependency on a different product and application that we need to have. So once again, that visibility is important to me to understand, is anything putting my achievement of this objective at risk? So anyway, my goal here was to show you how easy these visualizations are, not how we got here transactionally and the data entry we put in to do that. That's all part of the normal course of managing projects and portfolios. But the key here is that the answers, the analysis, the insights are a natural output, and it's made easier by bringing these things all together into a common hub. Okay. So with that, I'd like to move to a summary and some next steps. So what are the key benefits of using OnePlan for visibility? Well, faster decisions based on real-time data, improved alignment between investments and strategy, reduce project risk due to early detection, better use of resources, avoid burnout and under or overutilization, enhance stakeholder trust and confidence in the data because it's not just a static picture that somebody built, and then scalability across agile, hybrid, and traditional project environments, meaning all work in all types of projects and all types of things can be factored in here. The key here is to get it all in one place and to get visibility on it so we can make timely and correct decisions as we move forward. Best practices and recommendations. Where possible, you should try to align your project intake with strategy from the very start so that when we make decisions, we make sure that we're working on things that row us in the same direction of where the organization wants us to head. Standardize key metrics, those KPIs I showed you, or other data points that you'd like to capture. Make sure you standardize that across these efforts where possible and where applicable, such that you can get that good comprehensive picture. Adopt a single source of truth. Now, I would tell you to put OnePlan in place, right? But you need a single source of truth platform for your portfolios and not just your project portfolios, that other data that we talked about as well. Also, enable a cultural transparency, which what this does, right? And it does provide for accountability and visibility, but then it's not surveillance, not banging on people for updates and status as much as you would. The idea there is if it's readily and available, it becomes intuitively obvious that something needs to be updated or something is behind. The idea is let's make this a communicative thing and let's surface the notion of where corrective action or other things might be needed in order to bring our initiative across the finish line successfully. And use real-time reporting. We didn't talk about the updates in here today, but we have tools for the team member just to provide in one single place status and updates and information on the things that's been assigned to them so that you're not corralling people around a Teams meeting or a conference table and polling people to get that information and then transcribing it later. We get quicker turnaround that way, and we drive decisions based on more current and complete information. Now, OnePlan, just so you know, is a strategic Microsoft partner, and we have been in the project portfolio management, strategic portfolio management space for many years. We also are backed by our private equity partner, Aldridge Capital, and we're growing very fast, and we have hundreds of customers out there doing the things that we showed you here today. And we're recognized by the analysts. We're recognized by Gartner Peer Insights, by the customers. Forrester recognized us in their SPM wave. We're in Best Software Reviews, and PMI, we're an authorized training partner. And if any of you are wondering, we're established and solid. Our secured platform is SOC 2 compliant and also certified in ISO 27001 and 27701. So just be aware that you have no fear, and it's delivered from the Microsoft cloud, so you have all the certifications and security and compliance that you'd expect from the Microsoft platform. Now, OnePlan is a one-stop shop. Not only do we provide the solution that we're talking about here today, we can help you with any implementation services, education and training, customer support, and any advisory services. If you're looking to mature and you're looking for some guidance on how to roadmap this stuff, we can help you with that. And we do webinars like this all the time. So our next webinars are coming up on, um, we do a weekly deminar, which means it's a standard demo that happens each week. And the next one is on the 16th and on unlocking strategic excellence in OnePlan. But the next Thursday webinar we do will be next Thursday. We're going to do which projects support your strategy and deliver results with OnePlan. And we'll do a deeper dive into that aspect of things. So not only do we have the upcoming live webinars that are here, but we have a whole library of recorded on-demand webinars that you can go out there and look at a variety of topics on all these different dimensions of the things that OnePlan does. And from what I showed you, you can see there's a wide variety of elements to OnePlan. You can get a free trial of OnePlan. If you go to oneplan.ai/solutions, you can go and get a free trial. The strategic portfolio management is probably the more robust one that has the more full set of configured capabilities in the trial. But look at the descriptions of these, learn more, and pick one that best meets the needs that you have. But I would say this, don't do it alone. OnePlan does offer complimentary assistance on your trial. We can help chaperone you to make sure you select the right templates. Get the most out of it, possibly do some minor configuration in the trial to help you get the outcomes or the visuals that you're looking for. And also be aware, as a Microsoft partner, our solutions and trials are also available up on Microsoft App Source as well. So next step, the free trial and support, but we also offer what we call a free business strategy workshop where we'll work with you on your current state, talk about where you aspire to get to, maybe your current tool stack, some of which we can leverage. You may already own a part of what you need to do what I showed you today. And then really what it would take to get you where you're going. We're happy to have that conversation and workshop with you. And if you're not really at any of that point, you just want to see a more detailed demo, this was high level and very focused on visualization and access to the data and decision support. We're happy to schedule a personalized one-on-one demo that meets your use cases, addresses your pain points or your gaps. And happy to schedule that with you. Just reach out to us at contact@oneplan.ai and request it. Or if you want to research us some more, just www.oneplan.ai. So I'd just like to thank you for your time today. I know it's valuable. Hopefully you got some value out of today and got some insights onto the insights that OnePlan can provide you and the visibility and the answers it can provide you to help you stay on course for successful completion of your projects and initiatives. Thank you and have a great day.